Don't forget to wash your foreskin, Luigi.
My dick's broken.
Hello and welcome back to Wish for Death Island, population you and me. And I know it's been like 3 weeks. I know, but some important things are happening. Firstly, the secret project that's been taking a lot of time in between like real life stuff I have to deal with is very, very, very close to being revealed. Like, I could reveal it in the next video or the one after, and the goal is to kickstart it in next year. I don't mean literal Kickstarter, I'm just using that as a word, and you'll know what I mean when I actually reveal it. It's not a bomb, I promise, not a bomb. You know, stuff has been happening and a bit of burnout, so stuff kind of slowed down. And first thing, I want to apologize that this video is shorter than my other ones. During the remainder of 2021, I'm kind of making videos a little bit shorter just to like kind of balance some other things I've got going on, but I'm trying to work out some good schedules so that next year things go more smoothly. And thank you for putting up with all of this. Anyway, shall we get on with the video?
Try asking Chinese people about Chinese.
This opens with Ryan, the gay journalist, and if you'll recall, season 2 so far has been about the court things where the parents are trying to say that Hanao's death would have been prevented by the school, but the school is really shitty at doing things, which is true, but the whole argument on their side is that people should be mind readers about this kind of thing, as if the shit that Hana wrote is somehow an indicator that she was depressed, even though it just sounds like normal edgy teen dialogue that every teenager does. Also the idea that the women are oppressed because women, and like other stupid obnoxious things like that, and boring shit about boys. So Ryan, he says that art is only good if it's deeply confrontational and political and deeply personal. I understand what he means with a certain type of art, but this whole episode kind of plays out as if all art should be this way, and it's such a narrow viewpoint to try and generalize all art as this type of thing. I have no problem if people want to do their art that way, but saying that it's not really good art or it's shallow art if it doesn't follow your specific political things is just such a closed-minded view of what art can do. And I'm specifically saying this as someone who likes to draw like happy things because it keeps me happy, I guess, and I enjoy it. I do draw some like weird things every now and again, but still, it's like, it doesn't have to be political, it can just be fun, it can just help people be positive, but I guess this is 13 Reasons Why. He says that Hana didn't connect with people because she was such a personal artist and she's not like other girls, they didn't understand her. Meanwhile, Tyler and his emo friend, who are both kind of doing the school shooter thing, like I swear they're gonna shoot up a school, painting shirts for themselves that say asshole on it because they're claiming the word. They're reclaiming the word from the bully, and they're also being incredibly cringy the entire time. Ryan says that you should express yourself, but when you're a soul in need, we live in a society, and society is bad. The counselor man is being targeted by someone, and he hides the damage from his wife, so she doesn't know this. Know your place. Interesting. The cheerleader bot is tired, and the evil jock is like, me want ride cheerleader, life good. He says that she should come meet his parents for dinner. She says that she needs to get dressed first and takes an hour to change. Meanwhile, the evil jock is sus because Jess, the person that he raped, returned to cheerleader practice and there's some hot dramas going on. Gumby then talks to Hannah's ghost about Justin, who, if you recall from the last time I did an episode on this like 2 fucking months ago, so it's okay if you forgot, he went on a massive bender and like took a bunch of drugs and he's on heroin now. He's hiding out in Gumby's house. Gumby's parents don't know, and no one at school knows that he's back yet. So, dramas. He's still very homeless looking as well. And Hannah's talking about the Polaroids and could have sent them. The Polaroids are this mysterious thing that's been turning up at Gumby's locker and other places around Gumby, where someone is trying to get him to figure out there's some mysterious things going on with the evil jock. And then he tells Justin that Justin is stinky. The Asian mum of one of the characters who is gonna go to court soon to testify at Hannah's big court thing makes it sound like Hannah was a slut because of her reputation, because so many boys were involved in this trial. I mean, kinda true. That toast stacks? Is that just bread? What the fuck is that? But there's an awkward conversation with Gumby and his dad where they think that Gumby is avoiding them and going through some weird phase because he's sneaking food up to his room and all that sort of stuff. And he tries to get the dad away from the shower because Justin's in there, and then he goes into like the bathroom where Justin is, and they're very loud talking to each other. So I don't know how the dad did not immediately notice that something fucky's going on. Like, either he would be super sus that Gumby's up to some weird shit with some shady people, or the fact that there's two male voices coming out of the bathroom, the dad probably thinks that Gumby's gay or some shit. Either way, the dad doesn't really react because I guess he doesn't have hearing. Hannah's parents have an awkward reconnection because they split up because of the stress of the trial, and the dad shows up to support her, but the mom's just like, no. Justin says that he doesn't entirely know where the Polaroid was taken, but he could ask around, and Gumby is like, no, you must stay here. Hispanic man then shows up to babysit Justin while Gumby's in school. Gumby says that he used WebMD as a source for the withdrawals. WebMD. There are a million different other reliable sources that you could use, but you chose to use the meme one. Plus, there's also the fact that so many people are coming in and out of Gumby's window. Like, what, there's like 3 people that came in and out of the window, and no one thinks this is weird. Like, across the neighborhood, there's probably some fuddy-duddy neighbor who's just like, are you aware that kids are sneaking in and out of your son's room? Because the room faces the street. Apparently, a lot of people are still aware of Gumby doing weird things regarding Hannah and like trying to track down the truth or whatever, so you'd think that there'd be more people going by and like happening to see some weird goings on. But regarding the court case, Ryan goes on this massive thing about how Hannah's poem wasn't taken seriously and they didn't try to track down who did it, and that's a bad thing. Literature comes in many forms, and that doesn't mean that the person is suicidal just because they write about death. There are many different ways that people can kind of cope with the thoughts in their head just by writing it out. I mean, look at fucking anything that Cormac McCarthy has written. I'm pretty sure that dude is okay, even though he writes like really fucking depressing things. This is such a narrow view of not only art but mental health in general. And like, even in season 2, my whole video series about this has just been like, just you wait, because it gets worse. It's funny because it seems already really terrible from season 2, and you're probably like, how the fuck does it get worse? So the assholes are walking around like cringe factories and looking very proud of themselves, but Tyler gets called to the counselor's office, and he's there because he's suspected of taking the pictures that last episode were put up on the classroom wall for Jessica and calling her a slut because someone was trying to attack her for speaking out about rape or something. Meanwhile, Draco Malfoy is listening to the tapes again, and his tape doesn't make sense to him. None of the tapes make sense, honey, the writing's terrible. But his whole thing, if you remember, is that he shot himself in the head for some fucking reason, and he can't remember doing this, nor can he remember the tapes or the entire month that the season 1 took place. So he's trying to re-listen to the tapes to figure out what happened. Gumby sees chalk on the field and just leaves to do some mystery solving, and Draco Malfoy is just confused. He's also heavily shaking as he presses play, and there's some awful, like, stretched aspect ratio 90s flashback. Like, what is this? The part in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone where they show the parents being murdered? Why is it filmed like this? The evil lawyer is one of my favorite characters because she acts like Voldemort while she's doing like this evil anime speech the whole time, as if she's so obviously evil character. Don't listen to shit that she says, when a lot of the time she makes sense.
Crying out for help in her work, or so the prosecution would have us believe. But you expect the school to draw that conclusion?
Well, it's their...
She routinely brings up that there is a big difference between, or like a balance, I should say, between like a school actually trying to do what they can and people like assuming that schools should be mind readers and know every single thing that the kid is up to. Like, don't get me wrong, I am not defending the school in the show or schools in real life, because I think schools are fucking terrible. The structure is terrible. The teachers are like, even if they do care, the way that the school is structured and like the really stupid people on education boards oftentimes kind of make them powerless to actually do anything. I don't like schools. But when it comes to these people, I find myself saying things that sound like I'm defending schools, because these guys are just kind of unrealistic. And it's funny that the one person that I relate to in the show is the anime villain lawyer. She brings up a good point that Ryan expects the school to understand the complex cry for help in the form of literature and art, and differentiate between that and just people being edgy, even though that's a lot more complicated than you'd think. And when he himself, as a student, does not understand the difference. And yes, they are teachers, but they only have a limited amount of training, especially with how corrupt education is in general. They probably aren't taught a lot of that stuff. What are they supposed to do exactly? She acts like a Shenmue villain but she's not saying terrible things. Ryan reveals that he worked on a poem with her and asked her to delve deeper. Apparently, Justin texted her every day telling her that he was sorry, and she eventually responded again and seemed to like him again, even though he spread a rumor that she was a slut who slept with him or something. Why the fuck do people think that Justin is hot?
Oh, owie.
Owie? Ryan lies that he doesn't know what her poems were about, even though in flashbacks in this episode he does. The emo guy says that Ryan is the worst kind of gay, and then says that he's allowed to say that because he's gay. And as a bi, I guess I'm half allowed to say that, so I will say that he is the worst kind of gay. Very obnoxious gay. 0 out of 10 gay. They go to an app to fuck with his life. I guess they're gonna make a fake account on Grindr or something, which seems really mean. Like, I guess these guys are supposed to be like the rebels that you relate to because they're being picked on at school and they decide to try and like form a little group to have some fun and think that they can take down the system, and it's like, oh, goofy teenagers, but then they just go and try and fuck with someone's life, and it's like, yeah, I don't think you're doing that good. Hispanic man is scared of the law because he's been involved with some fights, and if he gets another strike, he's basically going to jail. He kind of looks like he's crying, but I don't know if that was intentional. Justin says that he was buying pills to try and take the edge off because he didn't have a home anymore since his mom is dating like a drug dealer and they don't care about him. And he blew most of his money and heroin was cheaper, so then after the sub-story of his, a Hispanic man decides to take him for a walk even though they're not supposed to go outside. Jessica's parents want her to go to therapy, and the dialogue between her and Draco Malfoy has to be the worst in the entire series. I don't mean this scene in general, I mean like every scene that's just the two of them talking, I swear. They want to forget the kiss that happened between them, and Draco reveals that he's listening to the tapes.
Are you okay?
Yeah. Are you?
Gumby sees the chalk machine thing in the Polaroids and realizes that this shit in the Polaroids may have taken place in school, but where? I swear if they keep flashing Evil Jock's butt at me, like I'm gonna fucking commit Sudoku. Ryan reads more horrible poetry and reveals that it was about Justin. The evil lawyer jumps on this and is evil, I guess. What's the name of that one like drag villain in Shenmue 2? You know, the like really flamboyant one. She is evil for suggesting that people aren't mind readers, I guess. Like, this is the theme of the episode. Justin had showed up saying that he wanted to see Hannah and doesn't want to see her at school because of his reputation. Ryan didn't publish the other poems that she wrote because they sucked and they didn't shock as much. But this is kind of obvious, but he doesn't admit this. He says that she was hurting and representation is important and everything, even though it's pretty clear that he wanted a good poem for his magazine. Justin vomits into the hedges and Hispanic man gets cranky. Justin could be in danger because they see someone driving past who will know that Justin is back now and people might come and try and hurt him. There's some more boring Hannah parent reconciliation. This blonde bitch keeps popping up all the time and she talks like a robot. Meanwhile, Gumby can't find the right room for the butt picture even though he's trying really hard. Maybe Justin could help, and Hannah hanging out with Justin was confusing to Gumby because he still simps for her, and Hannah interprets this as him saying that it was her fault that she died or something. I don't know what the fuck's happening. Hannah's mom sees the dad has moved on and she gets really cranky wanky. The evil jock is talking about Justin, how him being back could spell trouble. They're talking very, very loudly about this and echoing around the locker room, but I guess no one else gives a shit.
You think that's why he came back here?
I don't know. Drop it.
And then there's an awkward interaction between him and Zach. The cheerleader bot talks friendly with Jess, and Jess is just being sarcastic and doesn't really want to hear it. The cheerleader has apparently been bringing up the fact that Jessica needs a man every single time they talk, and she kind of explodes at the cheerleader because it's an annoying thing to say. Ryan goes to see the mom and apologizes for the way he acted in court, and it's pretty awkward. But she wants to know more about the journals that Hannah wrote in because she's never seen them before, and there's also this Pepe Sylvia red string board that, because she's trying to unravel whose fault it was that Hannah died, and Hannah apparently referenced the Black Lodge, I mean the clubhouse. And they don't know what that is, but they need to find out. I actually like the idea of putting clues together with journals a lot, like very much. I'm really, really into the idea, like in a House of Leaves kind of style of people finding a manuscript or something and then trying to figure out the real life locations. And I think that like trying to figure out the metaphors and things is a really cool concept. I love shit like this, but I think that the show once again took a really cool concept, didn't understand why it was a good concept, and then just like tried to do this. Like they could have easily spun this to try and make it like the mom is trying to look for answers with her red string board to try and figure out whose fault it was, but in the end she realizes that like Hannah is the one who decided to do this because she didn't know Hannah that well, and she can't go blaming other people and ruining their lives for something that Hannah did. It was Hannah's responsibility. But with this show, they're going for this angle that they're secretly this ultra secretive, abusive place that the elite in the school take other girls and abuse them, and that's the reason why Hannah died. It's everyone else's fault. Hannah was a saint, she did nothing wrong, everyone else is at fault here. Like, there is actually a good kind of metaphor of there's an intruder in the house, which is like a metaphor for her. Like, she's the house, and then the intruder is like the person that everyone thinks they knew. They're this like outward persona of reputation and lies, and her lungs are filling up with smoke because her house is being destroyed. Like, her mindset, like that's cool, but they kind of discard that afterwards. Ryan once again states that Hannah writes out of need. Yeah, you said that like 3 times already. He had also stolen the poem while she was getting ice cream. Wait, so this is his inner monologue now? Beforehand, everyone is talking as if they're doing the testimony, and then before that in season 1 they're all talking about the tapes. So this is now just random inner monologue? I'm confused about the narratives. Ryan has got on Grindr because I guess he fucks the pain away. The counselor asks if Jessica quit the cheerleading because Justin is back and everyone just knows he's back now, and he says that she needs to talk to someone, and then she leaves. Evil Jock's parents are very awkward and they're drinking wine like, you know, uppity rich people. The mom suspects that he's abusing the girlfriend because of a bruise. Draco Malfoy says that he couldn't feel anything when Jessica kissed him because his pee-pee is broken. The other cheerleader bot turns up, but Gumby has gone to the movies and forgotten about her, so she just has to kind of distract the parents instead of sneaking into the bedroom window to try and watch Justin or whatever. Ryan gets stood up because the Grindr picture was the fake one that the emos made to fuck with them. Hispanic man then shows up with his new boyfriend and they have a pointless conversation that I'm gonna skip over. Jessica finally goes to the support group and finds this random bitch that just turned up at the start of the season, and I didn't know who the fuck she was. I still don't know who the fuck she was. I can't remember her name. They talk about being loud and pushy to reclaim power, which, I mean, if you're overly loud and pushy when you're trying to deal with trauma, that doesn't sound like it's a good way to cope. But Tyler is then blasting punk music. His mom comes in and has a very awkward Christian Minecraft server style conversation with him. The mom says that he was seen shooting guns and that he's getting into some weird behavior. Draco Malfoy then tries porn and the cam girl asks him some questions. He lies and says that he's like some strong attractive dude, but then says that he was lying and says his dick is broken, and she disconnects. Is pee-pee no is work, dick broken, sorry broken, dick machine no work. The cheerleader apologizes to Gumby and reveals that everyone knows that Justin is back at school now. Gumby is angry and says that Jessica kept the postcard, which means that she should talk to Justin because she clearly cares about him again. Ryan repeats once again that Hannah was lonely and wrote out of need. Yeah, you said that before. Jessica then sleeps in her own room that night, showing that she is now processing her trauma in a healthy manner, and Justin's mom doesn't care about his life because they're both cokeheads and no one cares, so the counselor tries to beat him up and then gets arrested, and Ryan starts doing some suicide ideation, I guess. Not that I really give a shit.
Honk for Thatcher's deed. Honk if Thatcher's deed.
So this episode continues the letter to Zach thing from the tapes from last season. In short, Hannah wrote a heart-filled letter to Zach about how she felt feelings and then he was ignoring her or something, and in the tapes she acted like he threw it away, but he still kept it. He kept the letter, and now this is something that's coming up in the trial. This is now a mix between an inner monologue for him and also the testimony. Like, some of the things he's saying clearly do not seem like something he said in the testimony. It's very much an inner monologue. So I guess they're just blending these two together as if you don't even know which one is which seems very confusing. It sounds like they just got really lazy with trying to figure out how to make the monologue thing work, so they just gave up, and it's like, whatever. Also, Justin apparently ran away from Gumby's house, and Gumby reveals the Polaroids to the cheerleader, and she doesn't understand what the fuck's going on. Zach says stuff about bullying, and the parents are reconnecting, but the blonde lady sees it as PR for the press because she seems like a robot that sees everything as PR for the press. Draco doesn't remember getting the tapes, and he still doesn't remember what happened that day. Gumby tries figuring it out too, but he's confused. This lady comes in as a substitute teacher, and the emo says that he glued the DVD player shut, so him and Tyler start sniggering, and then Tyler says that as a punishment for going to shoot guns, his parents are gonna take them to shoot guns. I don't know. The counselor has a talk with his wife about how what he's doing is getting into dangerous territory and she doesn't want him to do that because they have a child, which again is another good scene wasted. Ryan talks to the cheerleader about the clubhouse and what it might mean, but she thinks that he's just trying to get scoop for his magazine, so he drops it. And Zach says that nothing was done about the suicide poetry that Hannah wrote because not being a mind reader is evil. The coach is hinting that he knows what the counselor did with the brawl with the drug dealers and that he needs to keep his head down. He also said that he vouched for the counselor to the cops and it's kind of low-key threatening him like, see, I did that, I helped you, I got your back, so like don't do shit that disappoints me. They're not letting Draco Malfoy testify because of the memory loss thing, and then Justin shows up to school acting like a drug dealer and he tries to talk to Jessica, but Jessica's like, I want you to die, and then he just leaves and then he falls over. And the Hispanic man is like, I don't give a shit about any of this and wants to leave the show, but you can't escape the show. The evil jock's girlfriend is angry because he's not telling her anything. Zach then admits that he didn't reach out to Hannah when she wrote the note to him, but he did contact her during the summer, and he awkwardly went to a lot of movies to see Hannah as she worked there and wanted to apologize to her until she started talking to him again. Hannah says that Space Odyssey is boring, and I now hate her entirely. He also says it's boring, and Zach is boring. Both of you are boring. You don't have good taste. They watch some dumb movies and be pretentious about them, but oh no, 2001's the thing that's boring. He hides this from her parents and everyone else because he says that he wanted this to be their special thing. Just the two of them together, no one else knows, but it also comes across like he was ashamed of talking to her because of her reputation. He also says that he needed emotional support because his dad died and his mom was acting like an NPC with no emotions to try and cope with it. So then they're talking about relationships and he says that he's a virgin, and then she says that she is as well, and she says that sex seems like a bad negative thing towards women because women are oppressed, and then they kiss. So yeah, that's the thing. They awkwardly have sex and I have to skip this, it just goes on for way too fucking long. He admitted that they were all sexual and emotional relationship thing during the summer, and she says that, and then there's like a happy montage that goes on for way too long. The mom then gets really angry because she didn't know this, and the dad is trying to connect with her, but she's not giving in or understanding. Someone then breaks into Gumby's room and steals something, and Justin comes out to try and investigate, but the dad catches him because I guess he's back now. The boys then put this thing in Zach's locker to make fun of him for having sex with Hannah, and there's a fight that breaks out. And the mom is then going on about how she didn't know her daughter, and they want to bring Gumby to testify. Gumby then gets mad at Zach and thinks that he's lying because it wasn't on the tapes, even though it was proven that the tapes are somewhat lies because Hannah wasn't telling the truth the entire time. The show is trying to do this thing where it's like, you don't know the real Hannah, maybe she was lying, but at the same time they're still trying to pretend that she's a perfect saint because of this stupid idea that like, if someone dies, a way to respect them is to be nice and lie about them as if everything they've done is amazing. Like, you can still respect someone's passing and then criticize what they've done respectfully. The cheerleader then confirms that there is a place called the clubhouse, but Gumby just gives up because he was in love with Hannah, and anyone else trying to fuck Hannah was a lie because Gumby is the only one for Hannah. The emos then go shooting, and whichever one's dad this is looks really constipated while this is happening. Draco then says his body is broken forever because his doctor says that his recovery will plateau. They also get angry and shout and then start wrestling or whatever, and he gets a boner because I guess he's gay now. When your dick machine breaks, you are gay. 13 reasons why. Gumby talks to the mum, and Jessica tells her story in the recovery group. Hispanic man then goes to watch his boyfriend punch things, I guess. The emo man hacked Zach's iCloud and gets his photos, and it also reveals that there's some very sexual things that he has videos of, so the emo group is gonna have fun trying to get back at these guys. The support group girl says that it's her story to tell when her trauma is what happened to her. It's her story, it's her side of things. While I understand that, there's a kind of weird agenda that the show has, as if your word is the only thing that you need in court regarding sexual crimes, and it's a very dangerous thing because yes, when she talks to people in this support group, it is her story to tell. She can say what she wants, but if it's a thing in law or like outside of it, like in newspapers, there are two sides to the story, aka they won't know what evidence she has, and false accusers are a thing. I do sympathize when it's hard to get this sort of thing out when you don't report them out of shame and everything, but you need evidence for this, and that's a thing for a reason. Gumby has to face the fact that hiding Justin in his house was not a good idea, and his family then say Justin can stay because drugs sob story, so I guess that was over. Zach then gets confronted by the mom on the weird shit that he did in his past. They tried to like rationalize the way that Hannah kept all of this information out of the tapes, but I don't really understand what they're trying to do here. Justin then says someone broke in and he didn't tell the parents or Gumby, so they don't know what was stolen. I think it's implied that his drugs were stolen, but I don't fucking know. The jocks then make fun of Hannah and she ends it with Zach, and he walks away without telling her his real feelings because yeah, I don't know. And then Zach gets angry and they just start smacking shit. Again, I know that this is very short compared to my other videos, but I also feel like maybe 13 Reasons Why is better if I do it in 2 episodes per video format. I feel like I can talk about each episode more, and I didn't really do that last time. And once again, sorry for this video taking so long, but I'm really focusing on that secret project right now, and I promise you that it will be ready real soon. Bye now.